Hey everybody, my name is Mark, and today we're going to do an unboxing. All right, so today we're going to be doing an unboxing, and I'm really excited about this. I just received this knife today in the mail. I bought it just 3 or 4 days ago. And this is a Riot made knife. And I'm gonna keep you in suspense until we get it out of its little package here. This is, I gotta say, kind of before we get into this is a really nice pouch. I've got some knives that came in pouches. My Spyderco Paysan came in a really nice pouch. It's kind of a leatherette. This is also one of the first pouches I've ever seen that has Velcro instead of a zipper. So that's a little strange, but this is definitely a padded pouch, and it's got sewn in the pouch. It's got Riot on one side, and then it came with this little patch, and so it's got a patch on this side. And when you open it up, which is noisy, one side is for the knife, and the other side is for all the other stuff. So we're going to take a look at what comes with this. And it looks like we've got a couple of other Riot stickers, and we have some extra hardware. So these are the different screws. It looks like probably a pocket clip screw and a body screw, and I'm not sure what the short one is. I guess we'll find out as soon as we get the knife out. And then it comes with a cleaning cloth, and it looks like this cleaning cloth is actually, it's never been taken out of its package, but it looks like it's embossed with the Riot logo. So that's kind of cool. And then there is another one. Well, this is actually a pouch. So it says Riot Knives, and it says Riot Knives, and this is kind of a little silk pouch. I guess you can let your knife rest in this, but that's very nice. So now we're going to take the knife out of its side, and this pouch also has like really plush lining. This is kind of cool. It looks like you know, kind of a bag that you would carry. You know, one side that you can see stuff in, and the other side is for the knife. So this is the Kirby Lambert Iron X. And I kind of fell in love with this knife when I first saw it. To me, when I looked at this knife, and I try and I stay away from micarta by and large, and I kind of wrongly equate micarta scales with like a budget knife, right? This is vastly different than that. This is, you know, micarta, and there's two different shades of micarta that come on this knife. One of them is a lot lighter than this, and then this color. And oddly enough, they call this green micarta, and I really don't get that at all. It doesn't look green to me. It looks kind of, you know, medium brown or something. But this is a titanium knife and titanium scales. And so these are just inlays around here. But I've got to say, I think it's absolutely beautiful. And when I first saw this knife, it reminded me of like a guitar or something. Just the way the whole thing looks. It's got kind of a slopey shape to it. You know, it looks very ergonomic. But to me, this reminded me of, you know, some kind of stringed instrument. And the other reason I bought it is because I just purchased a custom knife factory David Lispect, and I've been after one of those for probably a year. It looks brand new, and I got a really good deal on it. And so I had looked at it quite a bit, and then I ran across this knife right after. And the David Lispect has carbon fiber, but it's milled. and it gives it almost a micarta look. And so then I saw this and I was like, wow, yeah, I've got to get this too. I can't pass this up. So we're gonna take a really deep dive into this. I'm not taking it apart or anything crazy like that. There's no need to. This is just an unboxing. But I will do some size comparisons. And I also want to thank the seller. So I bought this on Blade Binge, and I've never dealt with him before. I don't have that many sales and purchases. I think it's up around 80 or so. And I've never dealt with this particular person, but he seems like a really decent guy. And he actually kind of confided after the sale that he was kind of sad to see this go. And that, he kind of alluded to the fact that he hadn't had it very long and not enough to really enjoy the knife, and that he was hoping that I would. And so I just want to thank him. I am going to enjoy this knife. So, you were a pleasure to deal with on Blade Binge, and, I hope we have some dealings in the future. So thanks very much. But we're going to go ahead, and before I get into the specs and stuff, we're going to do a couple of real quick size comparisons. And so what I'm going to do is I've got a Spyderco Para 3, and I'm going to do a Concept Fenrir. And I'll kind of line those up at the pivot so you can see, kind of a size comparison. And then for just two more, we're not going to do a bunch of these. I'm not going to pull out my entire collection just to kind of show my collection off. But we're going to do a Spyderco Gale Bradley. And we're going to do a Poicolo Taro. And you can see that the Kirby kind of holds its own. It's not much shorter than some of those. It was a little longer, I think, than the Para 3. This is a 3¼ inch M390 blade, and the overall length is 8.5 inches, and it weighs 4.9 ounces. And so as far as my preferred carry specs, this is right in there. I don't much like blades that are less than 3¼ 3-inch blade, I'm kind of getting used to. The Para 3 is actually a little less, I think, or right at 3 inches. And that is almost too small for me. So I've always said that 3¼ is kind of my lowest. And this makes the cut very well because of its weight. So it's 4.9 ounces. I don't like knives that kind of disappear in your pocket or anything like that. I like knowing where my knife is. And so this one is kind of perfect for me spec-wise. So we're going to kind of get into it a little bit. As I said, this is M390. And you can see the swedge on top of the blade. That is really nice. And the flat is kind of, I wouldn't call it polished, but it is, brighter than the grind areas. This has thumb studs, and the thumb studs are attached with a screw. So it's not like the Cybertrix that has kind of the same affair up here, but those are, I'm pretty sure they just use an adhesive on the Cybertrix. And I've actually heard stories about those falling off. These are definitely not going to fall off. The pocket clip is titanium also, and I really like the shape of it. I think it fits the knife really well, and it kind of blends in with this titanium detail in the frame. And I like the foot on it. So you can kind of tell that it's going to be easy to get in and out of your pocket. I've had knives here recently that it was sloped, going in, but then the inside edge was almost 90 degrees, and it was basically impossible to get out of your pocket. So I had to kind of work with that a little bit. But this one looks perfect. This is a nested liner lock, and this is a flipper. So the flipper does have jimping on it, and the jimping is fairly aggressive. Like if I really put some pressure on there, my finger is not going to slip off. So this is really aggressive jimping, but it doesn't hurt, and it's not too sharp or anything like that. The detent on this knife seems pretty decent for the flipper. I think it's about the same really as the thumb stud. So it's not bad. I may, as I get into this knife a little bit, in another video or, just on my own, I may increase that detent just a little bit. This blade, it's kind of heavy blade stock. So this is thicker than, probably 75% of the knives that I have. I like this thicker blade. And like I said, it gives it, a really good weight. But I think I can get that to fire out there a little better and not restrict, the flipper in any way. So I may kind of mess with that. But just out of the box, I gotta say, this is extremely smooth. It does run on bearings. I don't know if they're fully caged or an open cage or, anything like that yet, because I've just gotten this knife. But I do know that it runs on bearings. This looks like a shallow hollow grind on this blade. I do not believe that's a flat grind. I could be wrong about that because it's really hard to tell. I've got some knives that you can tell a mile away because it's a really aggressive hollow grind. But I believe this is a hollow grind. Not that it matters to me. I'm not really a, blade snob, measuring the thickness behind the edge, any of that stuff. This is still a factory edge and it is super sharp. And I'm sure this knife cuts just fine. I'm not really into cut tests and things like that because anything like that can be solved with a sharpening. If it's not cutting correctly, you're gonna hone it or strop it or whatever you're gonna do. You're gonna fix that. So, but out of the box, this is a very sharp blade and you can see they put a really nice sharpening grind on it. And that is just beautiful. There is a slight sharpening choil. There is no finger choil. I guess if you wanted to, you could kind of snug up on the, this is basically the flipper. So you could snug up on the flipper here without fear of like sliding into that blade and kind of grip it like that. There is jimping on top of the blade, and this is just as aggressive, but not in a bad way. That actually feels really good. I've got some knives that are too sharp, and I've actually had to ease a couple of those with a file. So that feels really good, but you could snug up like this. I have large size hands, and this is, a full size. If I come back here, actually in the lock bar area, and just keep my finger there, I still get like a full 4-finger grip. So I would definitely consider this a full-size knife. It's not a small knife, and the weight alone, makes it feel like, a full-size knife. This does have, looks like about a half backspacer, something like that. And there is milling on the backspacer in both directions, so vertically and horizontally. It does have a space for a flipper tab, and I really like the way that's done. When you look at it from the edge, it just kind of looks custom. And when you're turning it, because these edges in the scale kind of stick out, it almost looks like when you get right about here, it looks like there's 2 or 3 of the areas, that would accept a lanyard, and they're all just kind of put together. And then you finish turning it over and that kind of disappears. So just for a second, like right there, you're kind of wondering, like, am I supposed to put 3 lanyards on this knife or what's going on? And then you finish turning it over and you can kind of see what's going on. But I really like the way that's done. That looks really good. As far as safety goes, I could not pick up the tip of that blade anywhere. Even rubbing my finger all over it, put a little pressure. So, I'm not going to get into the blade at all. The blade on the back side here, because this is open in front of the backspacer, I cannot get the blade there either. And so I don't believe there's a problem, in and out of your pocket and reaching for this knife. It is not a deep carry pocket clip, and that is fine with me. I like a little knife sticking up out of my pocket to kind of grab and make it easier. I don't, again, I do not like things disappearing in my pocket. I want to know where things are all the time. And so I think this pocket clip is going to be great. So that is kind of the unboxing for this knife. And I think I'm really going to enjoy this knife. I'm going to polish it up a little bit, and then maybe in a further video, I'm actually going to get into it a little bit, and I'll probably do that on camera for the first time. But I want to take this knife apart because it is used. This is a 3 or 4 year old knife, so this is not a new knife. I have no doubt that the person that I bought this from, really liked this knife and, enjoyed it, but he didn't keep it long enough to really, put any miles on it, so to speak. And so, he's got to be the second owner, which means I don't know what the first owner did to this knife. So I'm going to open it up and get in there and take a look and see if there's any maintenance that needs to be done or cleaning. At the very least, I'm going to re-lubricate it. And so, that's about it. So that is my unboxing for the Kirby Lambert Iron X made by Riot. I appreciate you watching.